All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Freddy's Ready podcast. This is episode number two. Number two of the podcast. How's everybody doing? Hope you guys are all doing well. This is episode number two. Like I said, Monday night today. I waited a little bit longer as the Rams and Vikings game was in, so I wanted to make sure I got everything good, all the Viking stuff good. And overall, good game. So I'll let you guys know what we're going to talk about over this. We were basically going to cover what happened over the weekend. We're going to cover all that. We're going to cover college football, some NBA news that's went on, NFL playoffs, some boxing news, as well as some UFC. As we do know, this is fight week. Fight week for UFC 311, Islam versus Arman 2, which is a good fight that I'm looking forward to, especially since I'm from LA. The fight's gonna take care of here in LA. Overall, it's gonna be a good fight. Good weekend. A lot of UFC fights. Division round of the NFL gonna be great. Sasaki hopefully announces where he's gonna end up going, and we'll cover all that thoroughly as we go on. So let's just get into it. So we'll get into NFL first, as this was the most recent, which was the Vikings and the Rams. So ultimately, we as in me in the podcast, I believe we went 8-10 for overall picks, because there was 2 games for college football and then 6 for NFL, honestly. So we went 6 for 8. We went 6 for 8 on our picks. The only ones we did lose were the Chargers versus Texans. We picked the Chargers, and the Rams versus Vikings. So we're going to go into the Rams versus Vikings for a little bit, get into it as it was today, like I mentioned. So overall, this was a tough game, man. Tough game. I mean, Rams came out and played. I mean, that Rams defense is legit, man. Right when you start talking about that Rams defense, you really got to think about those young defensive players on the Rams thing. I mean, Aaron Donald retiring in the after last season really had people thinking of this Rams defense was gonna really take a dive, really suffer. Who knows how they were gonna come back from this? And I mean, I think they bounced back even better. I mean, that defense is looking terrifying. I mean, that offense is really good too with Cooper Kupp. You got Puka Nacua, you got Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford. You got all these guys. That's good offensive line, you know. And honestly, I like them. I think it's the next matchup's going to be a lot more harder with the Eagles, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But talking about this game, I mean, the story of the game is Sam Darnold. I mean, like, contract year next year, who knows? Pretty personally, I don't think the Vikings are going to re-sign him. I don't think the Vikings are going to re-sign him, because this showed against the Lions that he couldn't get it done, which is the number one team, which would have fought for the number one seed, which would have gave them the bye today. Didn't show up. Against the Rams, didn't show up. It seemed almost every time Darnold got pressured, instead of stepping up in the pocket would just crumble on him. He would hold the ball for too long, get sacked, got strip fumbled a couple times, threw a pick. So if I'm the Vikings, I got to sit down and really think about this, because you drafted J.J. McCarthy, whose his last actual game that mattered was a national championship in which he won against Washington, right? Which was 2023, 2022. So now you have to ask yourself, we drafted him. We wasted a good pick for this guy, right? Do I re-sign Darnold and let McCarthy kind of work his way in? But sorry, Darnold's not going to sign for a cheap little contract, you know? I don't think he'll give anybody a discount at the end of the day, because I think the position he was in, where he was signing these contracts that weren't worth a lot of money, because obviously out of the draft, he was one of the best. I think he got taken 2 off the board at a USC. He started signing these contracts that weren't really worth any money. So I believe it's going to get to the point where Darnold's going to want to cash out. And rightfully so, you know, everybody wants to cash out, you know, but I think with Sam Darnold, you have to really understand that this could be his last contract, in the sense of big worth money contract, because who knows how he performs. In this sense, he bet on himself, which pretty much was his only option. Played a great year. The last 2 games, which I really think are going to hurt him. I don't think he'll be worth 60 mil anymore. I think he was worth like 50 in the sense of how good he played. But now I do think he's going to drop to like maybe a $40 million quarterback, $30 million quarterback a year, because of the price. I mean, I wouldn't pay him that, but I mean, you got to look at the market. If Dak Prescott's making 55 mil, I'm sure this guy can make similar to that amount of money. And for Sam Darnold, it almost showed that like these defenses kind of crumbled him. It showed he just couldn't handle the pressure. And I mean, I think you could see it in the Vikings coach. Darnold took that one big sack that lost, I believe, like 15 yards, and it was like they had a punt. They could have kicked, they had a punt. I think these are the stuff that the coaches are going to look at, and they're obviously going to make their decision on if they're going to keep him or not. And honestly, I don't think they will keep him. I do think they're going to move on, and I do see him going to the Raiders. I do think the Raiders will be able to will cash him out. As they did fall in the sixth. They're in the sixth pick. So when you look at that, there's really two good quarterbacks on the board. There's Shador and Cam. They're going to go first two picks, I think, because the Titans are going to need a quarterback and the Browns need a quarterback. Unless there's some mix-up that's going up there, and I know that the Giants need a quarterback. Will they trade for that number 2? I don't know. It all depends. Other than that, this class is stacked with defense. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm going to sign Sam Darnold, and I'm going to pick up a good defender, a good Will Johnson. I'm going to pick up Abdul Carter. I'm going to pick up somebody else good. Because if you can match up Abdul Carter with Max Crosby, that's a heck of a pass rush. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, we'll get into that a little more longer. I do think that'll happen, and I do see the Raiders getting him, but we'll go more into that as the offseason comes around. Right now, we'll talk about more of the NFL stuff, which was very interesting, man. We'll start off with the AFC with the number 2 Bills taking on the number 7 Broncos. Domination, man. Broncos started off hot. I'm not gonna lie. Bo Nix throwing that 40-plus yard pass. It just seemed like the Bills were better than the Broncos in every aspect. Defense, Bo Nix didn't have necessarily a bad game. Decent game, Bo Nix. But I just think Josh Allen was overall showed why he's the MVP. This Josh Allen, we'll go first. Stats, 20 for 26 in completions, 277 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns. And what I honestly really think Buffalo showed this game, which was, I knew coming into this, but I feel like a lot of people were taking this for, they were making this a lot smaller than it was the run game. James Cook's legit, man. 23 carries, 120 yards. He just adds, I think they're a lesser duo than Lamar and Derrick Henry, because I do think Derrick Henry is obviously Derrick Henry. I think he's a little better than James Cook. I think Lamar's a better runner than Josh Allen, although I do think Josh Allen's a better contact quarterback. He likes to contact more. He'll break more tackles. But this is interesting because this kind of gives a problem for anybody. If James Cook can run like this against the Ravens, which we'll get into as well, it really will put the defense on hold. And then if you have to think twice, well, Josh Allen's your quarterback, you're gonna get pieced up all game. So either you're gonna let James Cook run, or you're gonna let Josh Allen started doing that read option, and he's going to just keep the ball and run off and then just score tutties. Which wouldn't we want to take, But if you're the Ravens, I think you'll be all right, because you're going to have Lamar's going to get you points. Derrick Henry's going to get you points. And also, another thing about that game was I think the Bills defense really stepped up. I know they were going through some issues and they weren't known as a good defense or a particularly high-ranked defense. But I do think their defense showed how they could stop anybody. Bo Nix was in the offensive rookie of the year category. He has Sutton as a wide receiver. He's got weapons. We could say weapons. I don't say he has the most stacked offense, but he has weapons. And what I noticed was the Bills just didn't allow the Broncos to run the ball. And it seemed like anytime Bo Nix tried passing, there was 2 guys there. And I just like this Bills defense more than I do other defenses, because I think this is a defense that's kind of overlooked, because I know they're not ranked like a number 1, number 2 defense. But the defense did show out today, and it's going to be interesting, man, because they're going to be playing in Buffalo against the Ravens, which I don't know how that's going to go. That's the game that's like probably the hardest game to predict, I think, out of the rest, because the number 2 versus number 3, and they're the 2 top teams, you know what I'm saying? So, but we'll get into that a little bit longer. We'll move on right now, as that game was just straight up 31-7 Bills, and it really showed that they were the number 2 seed, and the Broncos were the number 7. So, getting into the Ravens and Steelers game, this was another one where this is kind of complicating for Russell Wilson as well, and then Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin, they have one of the worst playoff records in a while. I would say they, for straight playoff entrances, they've lost more than 6 out of the last 10 in the first round or whatnot. But it just seemed like And then TJ Watt didn't show up either. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see the Steelers. I didn't see the Steelers having a chance of winning this game. I thought if they were, it was going to be their defense showing up, but their defense didn't show up at all. Najee Harris didn't really show up. Warren didn't really show up. Russell Wilson was solid, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is something like, I mean, he played good for playing against the Ravens defense that is starting to come like a zone, like I mentioned for Buffalo. But overall, Lamar Jackson, man, you look at it, 175 pass yards, 15 carries, 81 rushing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Then you have Derrick Henry, man, 26 carries, 186 yards. Like, it gets to a point where, what do you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't even know what to do. Like, you're talking about like Lamar Jackson, man, who could run, break out any play and score a touchdown, you know? And then you have Derrick Henry, who you give him the ball and you give him a running start, ain't nobody gonna stop him, man. Ain't nobody gonna stop him, right? So this team, I think, coming into the year was looked at really well because of the addition of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry elevated this team to an A+. I would have given him an A before this, but now they're at an A+. I think when they got J.K. Dobbins, they were in a better situation, but the addition of Derrick Henry, I didn't think Derrick Henry was going to play at this level, but it really helps out because when you pair him and Lamar, like I mentioned, same thing to Josh Allen and James Cook, that read option opens up Lamar's pass game, which I think really everybody found out this year. And I think this team is scary for anybody to face right now. And I know it's going to come up to the top 4 teams, Texans, Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. I do think winner of Ravens and Bills would win the AFC Championship. I do think the Chiefs lose to both those teams. Although we're gonna get into an interesting fact a little later about the Chiefs that what's on my mind about them, but it's gonna be interesting. It's hard for me to make a prediction on the Ravens and Bills just because they both played so well. Yes, Bills scored more off a better defense, but this was a rivalry game with the Ravens and Steelers, so that's why I kind of it was a little closer than usual. But I mean, when you talk about the Ravens and how they beat the Bills earlier in the season, you have to take that in consideration. But Josh Allen elevated so much that it's almost, can the weapons that Josh Allen has play at a level where it can go in a shootout? Because I do see this game going in a shootout. I don't think this game will be 21-14 or anything. I think it'll be around 35-28, something like that. Zay Flowers was gone, and I think Lamar played perfectly without him. So I think they do get scarier as Zay Flowers will come back and join the team against the Bills if, according to reports, he's back. That I haven't seen anything confirmation yet, but I'll look into that. If he is able to come back, that just adds a deep threat for the Ravens, and it just makes the offense a lot better. But I think they will need him against the Bills, although I do think the Bills have a lesser defense according to the Ravens. But I think just you got to have all the weapons against Josh Allen. That man can put up 40 on anybody. I don't care what defense you are, he'll put up 40. You know what I'm saying? He put up 40 against the Rams, which was a good team, right? So that was pretty much it. I mean, Ravens beat them 28-14, which 4 touchdowns to 2, pretty simple, pretty easy. I mean, I predict that one. I thought the Ravens were going to pretty much put a whooping on them, and it happens. So we're moving on to the Texans and Chargers, 32-12. This is the team I had the Chargers winning. I forgot by how much, but I had the Chargers winning. I just thought their defense was going to be superb. But for the little bit, that's what it was looking like. If I'm not mistaken, Chargers went up 6-0. So Stroud didn't look as efficient in the beginning of the game. He looked like he was starting to struggle, which I mean, a lot of people would, but that Texans defense had his back, man. That Texas defense picked Herbert apart and made him look like a rookie quarterback. I mean, he had 4 interceptions, 3 all year, 4 in one game. Although you could make an argument that 2 of those shouldn't have been picked. I mean, one through McConkey's hands and then one through I forgot his name, but off his hands right into a defender of the Texans, and ultimately Texans capitalized. But one thing I want to talk about too is CJ Stroud's quick game. I mean, this guy gets the ball and gets it out of his hands without even getting pressured. It was almost like he didn't take anything for granted. He didn't get greedy. Nothing was open. Boom, check down. Boom, check down. Boom, check down. Boom, check down. And they ran up the score. And eventually, Stroud and his offense just started taking over. Nico Collins is legit, man. That man is legit. That guy's huge. And he could run routes like that. Woo! You know what I'm saying? So Texans are definitely an issue. Do I think they'll be an issue against the Chiefs? That's up to me. I know that's up to them. Chiefs did get the best of them in the regular season, but I think if CJ Stroud shows up in that offense and that defense can play the way it played against Justin Herbert type of quarterback, which I think Patrick Mahomes was a little better, but you get the point. I think they have a chance. The Chargers could not get the run game going, like I mentioned, or like credit to the Texans defense. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, 9 carries, 26 yards. 9 carries, 26 yards. And if you look at Herbert, yeah, he had a good amount of yards, but McConkey had 197 of those yards on 9 receptions. He proved to be the best receiver in the whole game. Better than Nico, better than everybody. Now, talking about that, I do see the Chargers going out and getting more pieces. Because when you look at it, next year, McConkey's going to be guarded a lot differently. If you can pair up a little bit more with him, I'm talking about if you could give him a little bit extra help, that'll really benefit everybody. That'll really benefit Herbert and his passing game as he will have more options. I would like them to go out and get a tight end, a good tight end, a Laporta type tight end. I know they're somewhere in the 20s in the draft or high teens. I don't think Warren would drop that low, or if he's going to be on the board at all from Penn State. But if he is, that's somebody I would probably try to get if I could get my hands on him. Because if you think about it, Herbert threw for 200 plus yards, 197 were on the McConkey. Like, you need help. He needs other pieces. He needs pieces he could just hit and not have to worry about it. Stroud, 282 yards, 1 touchdown. Like I mentioned, his quick game was truly something special after the first quarter. The first quarter pretty much had the issues, the struggles, and Nico Collins kept it legit, man. 7 receptions, 122 yards. Beast, man. Beast. Anytime you need him, just hit the ball. Give him the ball. Just give him the ball. He's like, I don't know, 6'4". Give him the ball. Joe Mixon also had a great game after coming off a couple games where he really didn't show his full potential. I mean, 25 carries, 106 yards, big score, touchdown. Whenever they needed a first down, he got it for them. Big running back, really big running back. So after going into Kansas City for this Texans team, what I would do is not what I would do, but more what I see happening is I think this Texans defense needs to be ready to play, because when if you're the Texans and you need to beat this Kansas City team, which a lot of people are thinking might three-peat, and I think you need to go in there prepared, because yes, their offense hasn't been the best, but this is what I mentioned earlier about how I have my opinion about them. I think they're probably the most underlooked team, and I know that sounds ridiculous because Chiefs are looked at as probably the best team in the league by many people, but many people see their season as lucky because they were 15-1. They threw that game against Broncos away without getting it matter, but their offense didn't get going. But if anybody's gonna get that offense going, I think it's Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, this guy's great for a reason, right? This guy has 3 rings for a reason, and I think he can get another one if that offense gets going. Nobody's beating him. Nobody's beating him. I don't care if the Ravens or Bills have the best game of their life. If the offense of the Chiefs gets going and Mahomes starts clicking like that, over. Don't even think about it. Chiefs are beating everybody by 30. So now we'll go on the other side of the NFC. And we'll start off with the Eagles and Packers, as this was a really good game. I think the Eagles defense really showed why they're the number 1 defense in the league against a Jordan Love type quarterback, who I think many people are having mixed opinions about now, because I mean, did he have 3 picks? Yeah, 3 picks. Jordan Love was good, but it almost seemed like every time he had a lot of time, he would make a bad decision. It was almost like you need the pressure to hit him so he could start trying to find pieces. But even then, he would get hit and he would just make a bad play, get picked off. And part of that is credit to the Eagles. I think the Eagles just really showed out tonight. I don't see why I don't see where a day where the Eagles defense isn't going to show up. They were just on a different level that day against the Packers team, who, yes, they were the 7th seed, but they were no joke. This team on any given day could have beat anybody. And Josh Jacobs played well, but I mean, one thing that also did kill the Packers is their wide receiver 1 wasn't playing because of a torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken, and then 2 players got hurt, one to a concussion, another one to a knee injury or an ankle injury. And the Packers seemed to be controlling on the defensive end for a good amount, as that defense I do think is solid, but I do think the offense just started slowing down, and the Eagles defense started picking up. The Jalen Hurts needs to get it going, and then AJ Brown reading a book on the sidelines is like, really, bro? Like, you're in a playoff game and you're reading a book because you're probably not getting the touches you want to get or whatever. I do think against a Lions team or a good, like they're playing the Rams, you gotta, that Rams defense is legit, man. If they're not clicking or if there's arguments going on the sideline, don't be surprised if the Rams upset the Eagles. Do I think that'll happen? I'm not gonna get into that just yet, but that'll be interesting for sure. I would just like to see the Eagles pass game get elevated a little bit better. I know that run game is always going to be good with Saquon. I mean, Saquon's going to run for 100 yards every single game, just to feed him the ball. So that'll be interesting going into their next game against the Rams, and I do see it being a good game for the most part. I do see a way where the Eagles could probably blow them out, or I could see the Rams squeezing out a good one, squeezing out by 7 touchdown field goal win over the Eagles. So we'll get into that a little more closer at the next podcast, where we'll be dropping on Friday, hopefully. But that was pretty much the story of the game. Was Eagles defense took over. The run game for the Eagles was just too good. Jordan Love got picked off 3 times, which you can't really do against a team like the Eagles, where you can't give up possessions and they're just going to go and steamroll you guys, right? So this was the game that I thought was the hardest pick, which was the Commanders and Bucks. Bucks 20, Commanders 23, won by field goal. I picked the Commanders to win just because of one person, and I believe I was right, Jaden Daniels. I mean, 24 out of 35 completions, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, led his team in rushing as well. He's the real deal, man. I mean, rookie winning his first game on the road against the Bucks, against Baker Mayfield, who was balling. I mean, Baker played well, 15 completions out of 18, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did fumble late, which I do think led to Washington coming back, as they were down 13-17, if I'm not mistaken. And then they got the fumble, they cashed in, whatever. Both defenses really showcased why they were top 10 in my opinion. I think the defenses really were able to neutralize other offenses for sure a bit. But Jaden Daniels, man, if you get him in the 4th down and close, forget about it. I know Brian Robinson Jr. didn't have the best game for the Commanders, but I think he will bounce back against the Lions. I don't know if he'll break for 100-something yards against the Lions, but I think he'll have a better game. Jaden Daniels, I think, like I was mentioning, in those 4th and close situations, I think it was just too much for the Bucks defense. I think, like, you could put a spy on him, but I feel like he was just going to outrun him, or he was going to hit a little slant. It's just Jaden Daniels, I think, his mentality and IQ is just at such a higher level, and then he's gifted as well. He looks like another Lamar to me. I just think Jaden Daniels probably throws the ball a little better than Lamar, but I think Lamar's a little quicker on his feet and all, and can bounce more tackles. But I do see I don't know if the Washington can beat the Eagles. No, I'm sorry, the Lions in their next matchup. But I think they could shock them, as the Lions have had time off. But the Lions are banged up on defense, and Jaden Daniels could exploit the defense possibly. But ultimately, it's can they score enough points? Because the Lions are going to get 30 points off. Lions are going to get 30 points off. I don't care who they play. They're going to get 30 points off. But it's almost as it's surprising at how Jaden Daniels has taken this team to another level. If I'm not mistaken, they were 4-12, 3-13, whatever last year, like terrible, 5-12 or something like that. And now they're 11-5. They were 11-5, 11-6, I can't really remember exactly what their record was, and they won a playoff game on the road against the Bucks, who Baker Mayfield was balling during the whole season. So that's pretty cool and pretty surprising as a rookie. And I do think he'll win Rookie of the Year, no doubt about it. Rookie Offensive Player of the Year. If there was only a Rookie of the Year, he would win it, no doubt in my mind. But that's pretty much it for the NFL. I think we have the Lions going against the Commanders, Eagles and Rams. We got Chiefs, Texans, Bills, Ravens. I think they're beautiful matchups. We'll get into that a little more on the Friday's episode, but overall, I think we just covered pretty much what happened in the NFL over the weekend. I know the Eagles, did lose their linebacker. to a knee, a season-ending injury. So that we'll see how they bounce back from that, how they could fill his spot in and all that. We'll see how they go and how they could recover from that. But my favorite topic of the weekend is going to be the college football playoff. Woo-wee. 2 for 2, baby. 2 for 2. We picked Penn State. We picked Notre Dame. We picked Ohio State. Both games I think were really good games. I mean, the Notre Dame game was just crazy, as Notre Dame did beat Penn State 27-24 by a field goal. Both quarterbacks played really well, I think. Riley Leonard, 15 for 23 completions, 223 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 18 carries, 35 yards. Drew Aller from Penn State, 12 for 23, 135 passing yards, 6 carries, 17 yards. So Drew Aller, I think, needed more work, and I think next year's going to be more of an issue. But it just seemed that Penn State's defense really helped them stay in this game. And I know Penn State went up 10-0 early. And part of that was Nick Singleton, man. 15 carries, 84 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Nick Singleton scored the points for Penn State. This guy is just remarkable what he can do. Tyler Warren, 6 receptions, 75 yards, who was another guy who I thought really was solid. And I know towards the end of the game, I think he got concussed. I mean, come on, this guy bounced his head off the freaking turf. And he struggled to get up and still came back in the game. So that guy I think is the best tight end in the country, and he pretty much put that passing game on his back, if you think about it. This man really was open everywhere. Every time they needed a tough throw, boom. Warren, where's Warren at? Where's Warren at? Boom, got him. Hit him, right? Drew Aller, I think if he would have performed a little better, would have catapulted Penn State over Notre Dame, but I think just him struggling a lot and really throwing that late pick, which I don't see why he would throw. You're like 30 seconds left or whatnot. 36 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, and it's a tie ball game. Why are you throwing 50-50 balls or whatever? Just take a sack, go to overtime. Obviously, I'm not a quarterback. I wouldn't know, so I wouldn't know what he was thinking or the pressure. So, but ultimately, I think that was a bad decision. But when you think about it, the Jeremiah Love is legit. 11 carries, 45 yards, but that 1 touchdown he had, breaking tackles left and right. Something special, man. And then as well as Jaden Greathouse, 7 receptions, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. I know y'all saw that touchdown. I saw that touchdown. Broke the corner, sat him ass to the grass, then broke the safety's ankles. Oh my God. To break 2 people, not at the same time, I'm talking about in a distance, that's probably Tutty of the Year. I'm not even going to lie with you. I'm not even going to cap with you. That was, put him on skates. I mean, they look like they had just gotten dropped by an NBA, by a crossover or something. He did a crossover with his feet. You know what I'm saying? So I do see, that was disgusting. Disgusting. But I do see Notre Dame playing well and and using their weapons against an Ohio State team, who I do think will, especially after Ohio State beat Texas, which was a good game as well, which we'll get into in a bit. But Notre Dame, I think, really flexed its muscles in the way where they're overall so good in defense and offense. I think defensively, they were rated fairly, but in a sense, they were like probably number 3 in the country. I mean, this defense is legit. Now, do I think they can match it with an Ohio State offense, especially after Ohio State beat Texas? You know what I'm saying? So this was an amazing game. I mean, way better than I expected. I think Texas played beautifully on defense. I mean, it was obvious their game plan was to shut down Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State, and I think they did do that. I think he had 1 reception, I think, the whole game. Will Howard, I mean, I think Will Howard gets overlooked, honestly, and I think he's a really good quarterback, but when you look at the weapons he has, and people are like, oh, Jeremiah Smith, you made Ibuka, and then they had other weapons, the running backs, Judkins, Henderson. Yes, he has these weapons, but this man is so composed when he throws the rock. When he throws that football, it's like he doesn't really take any unnecessary. All right, I'm sorry, guys. Technical difficulties, again, camera battery died. Whatever, we'll move on. So we were talking about Notre Dame being close to Ohio State. Like I mentioned, I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be really close. Do I see Ohio State beating a a Notre Dame, of course. Do I see Notre Dame beating them? Of course. But like I mentioned, a good question would be, can Notre Dame's offense match up with Ohio State's offense? And that's gonna be the big question, because I think defenses will shine. I think they'll come up with clutch moments, but ultimately the offense is gonna come down to the offense. I think Notre Dame's defense will perform. Will their offense match up? I don't know. That's the question we have to see. Depends what kind of can Price and Love put that run game on their back and really break through that front guard of that trenches with Ohio State. We'll find out then, you know what I'm saying? So for now, we'll leave it at that. We'll just say that it's gonna be a good matchup with Ohio State Buckeyes and Texas. Notre Dame Fighting Irish. National Championship Monday. Well, we'll see how it goes then, you know. We'll take it. We'll go how it goes. We'll take it on for now. So I know we didn't talk about. I want to talk about baseball just a little bit. There's not that many going on with the offseason, and the one thing I want to talk about was Roki Sasaki. And for most of you that don't know, Roki Sasaki is this pitching phenom from Japan. He really made his name in the World Baseball Classic, which is basically the World Cup of baseball. And this man he's 23, 24. Very young. Throws 100 miles an hour. Nasty splitter. Basically a more explosive version of Yamamoto. He narrowed his teams down to the Blue Jays, Padres, Dodgers. Ultimately, I don't think the Blue Jays are involved at all. Mad that we had a lot of technical difficulties today. Should be the last one. Let's roll. So, what we're talking about? Oh, okay. Yeah, Padres. Padres need a matchup pitching-wise. I think that's the big thing. They need a matchup pitching with the Dodgers. If you allow the Dodgers to have an edge on you in pitching, forget about it. Forget about it. Dodgers were banged up all year. Banged up in the postseason. And they beat everybody. If they're healthy, I'm a Dodger fan. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to brag, say my team's the greatest and whatever. I don't want to be biased. But if the Dodgers are healthy pitching-wise, you need another healthy pitching rotation, a good, deep pitching rotation that can compete. And that's the only way is they need to get Sasaki on that team. And I think the Padres, if they lose out, it's a really big, it rips their heart out. It's a really big blow because now you just got to go and trade. You got to go give up pieces to get a guy, which is something the Padres have been doing a lot, is giving pieces up. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if they can pull it off. The Dodgers, if they get him, it just adds to the depth, and it adds to obviously injuries can happen at any minute and any moment, but I think it does benefit in a way where they can rest guys more. They can throw a couple starts, boom, here. We'll rest you for the playoffs. Because Dodgers are going to win the division, or they're going to be 2. They're not going to fall to the number 3. It'll be impossible. Our Dodgers are going to win 100 games. So, for the Dodgers, adding Sasaki adds that fuel, adds that extra can of gas on a road trip where you could just fuel them. All right, fuel them up. We can go farther. We can go farther. We don't got to stop at this gas station. We can go farther, fill up the gas, right? That's a good analogy, I think, for most people is with Sasaki, boost long term. Helps everybody out. 23 years old. Perfect, right? 3-headed monster on the pitching rotation with Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto. Sasaki. And then you have Tyler Glasnow, who's an ace on any other team. People don't overlook that. Tyler Glasnow's going to be healthy. Kershaw, I do see him pitching a little bit, but we'll see how that goes, and we'll get into a little bit more depth after that. But that's just a little bit that I wanted to dive in with Sasaki and talk about who he is, how significant he is to these teams. And the Blue Jays, obviously, I don't think they're going to get him, so I don't think it's really worth talking. But if they do get him, huge addition for them. I mean, teams are going to want to start. That's how you really attract attention when you sign those big players. And if they get him, I think they'll get more attention. Vladimir Guerrero is going to come up soon. If he signs a long-term contract, I mean, perfect for them. But I think Vlad probably will leave, in my opinion. I don't think he'll stay. But we'll get on to that a little bit later as it gets more closer. But from what I heard, he should have a decision by 23rd or 20th. So we'll see how that goes. But speaking of decisions and dates, we have a date this Saturday, the Intuit Dome. We got Islam versus Arman. And I know I already talked about this in the last podcast, but I just want to dive a couple things in there about obviously it might get relocated to a different arena. And first of all, this is a sports podcast, but I did want to talk a little bit about the Fires, just a little bit. I don't want to get too involved into it, but I am from LA, and seeing these things is very sad. Seeing people cry about their homes, which is understandable, and I just want to give prayers to everybody that's losing their family, losing houses, losing memories, which obviously I can't um really relate to, as nothing's happened to me, thank God. But yeah, I bet it's something that most people won't. I don't wish upon a lot of people, and I just hope everybody gets safe. I hope everybody gets things resolved. I hope everybody gets help financially and emotionally, and will will grow and restart their lives, which is obviously something that a lot of people want, and I think we're wishing for. If anybody needs help, feel free to reach out. I know if a lot of places are taking donations with clothes. And if there's anything you can find online, find a bunch of information about that, and we'll just wanted to give my thoughts and prayers out to the fires, and quick little shout out to my I'm not gonna mention his name. I don't want any publicity going on, but I know what some stuff's happened to my one of my friend. Wanted to give a little shout out to him. That, yeah, we're all here for you, my man. You know what we're talking about. I don't want to. I'm not like I said, I'm not gonna get into any specifics. Just know who you are, my man. Care about you. We love you, man. Always reach out. So back to we'll get back into sports. Just wanted to give my thoughts on the main card a little bit, and mainly on if they lose. So Islam and Arman. I think if Islam lose, I think if both these guys lose, they're gonna get a rematch, unless only in this case for Marab. I think if Marab loses, Marab gets dominated, I don't think he'll get a rematch, because I think he's always cleared out most of the division. I think Peter Yan will step up. But for Islam, I think he gets an automatic rematch. I think he's earned it 3 title defenses. I don't really see why he wouldn't. But for Islam, I see him either fighting Charles Oliveira next, or I see him moving up if Bilal loses. I don't think he'll fight Bilal. So I think he'll go up to 185. I don't think so. I think that's too much. I think Hamza will probably ragdoll him. I truly do believe so. I think Hamza will ragdoll him. I think Dry Kiss will just be too big and too strong for him. I don't think he has that. I don't think, although I do think Islam has good striking, I don't think his striking is that fearful or physically imposing to the point where those 85ers will be backing up. No, I think those 85ers will probably walk him down. And I think when he does try to shoot, I think the 85ers will probably sprawl and I do think those stuff is takedowns, and I think it'll ultimately become to the point where I think Islam will gas from the weight, and I think he'll just get finished, or he'll lose the decision. But if anything else goes wrong with that card, which is the Jamal and Yuri one, is pretty not really anything on the line, except I do think Jamal starts with Yuri, and I really do mean it, because Yuri gets hit a lot. And I think Jamal somebody you just don't want to get hit with. And I think Jamal's going to come in with a mentality of, I need to get this guy out. I think he will. I think the first rounds with Jamal will be on the back foot getting hit. But I do think as the second round comes, third round comes, I think he'll finish Yuri and get him caught. And I think Yuri will, I don't know what'll be up to him. But I think Jamal will end up finishing Rakic as Pereira will fight Ankalaev. And then, or if Jamal just wants to sit on it, and then it gets a match against Pereira, I do think that'll be a good little money fight. If Pereira wins or loses, I think Pereira will fight. I think Pereira gets a rematch. Obviously, I think he's just too big of a star not to get a rematch if for that title. If he loses to Ankalaev, which I do think he will lose, but we'll see how that goes on, and we'll talk about that on Friday, and we'll talk about that next podcast as the card will be over. But. So I know we're going to talk about boxing today, and today I wanted to get into that. And for most of you that don't know, it was the ring event that happened over the weekend, which was basically fighter of the year, trainer of the year. I believe went to Robert Garcia. Big shout out to Robert Garcia, who I do think is the best trainer on the planet. Not just because he won the award. I've been saying that. I mean, think of the champions he has: Virgil Ortiz, he's got Bam Rodriguez. He's got so many of these high level fighters. And he just makes everybody better. I know Oscar Duarte went to him recently. For most of you that don't know, Oscar Duarte is the guy that fought Ryan Garcia before Devin Haney. I'm trying to think of another fighter that fights for Robert Garcia. Blank. Besides, Jose Ramirez fights for him. Giovanni Santillan fights for him as well, and those are all fighters that came off wins this year and last year. So I do see. Congratulations to him. Clap it up for Robert Garcia. Good, big shout to him. Fight of the year went to Usyk, which I completely agree with. He's the best fighter on the planet, best heavyweight I've probably ever seen in my life, which I'm 20 years old, so I don't think of that long. But Usyk's legit, man. I don't know who beats him. I don't know who beats him. I mean, I could see him retiring. Realistic, I think he fights Joshua again. I think he knocks him out early. I think Daniel Dubois makes sense, and I know. And speaking of Daniel Dubois, he's on the card for the Beef World versus Better Beef 2 fight, which I want to get into a little bit later, just a little bit. I want to talk about a little bit about what happened at the ring event, which was Conor Ben pushing Ryan Garcia, went into the drama stuff. I know Ryan Garcia is I think trying to fight, or they're gonna fight Devin Haney, which will be a good fight. Which I picked Haney to win last time, and then he got all to smallish. I think he fought a terrible fight. I don't know why he kept going backwards every time he walked Ryan Garcia down. He had success, but above me. I think Conor Ben got finalized for a fight with Chris Eubank Jr. If it's at 160, which I think it will be, I think Ben probably stops Eubank. But I think I think I wouldn't be surprised if Eubank stops Ben, just because of the simple fact that Ben's gonna have to go up in weight. Ben's a 47 fighter. Ben going up to 60 for Eubank is like, Eubank's a big boy. I mean, this weight class is for a reason. I wouldn't, and Eubank's slick, so I wouldn't be surprised if Eubank throws in a big punch, catches Ben, drops him, and then finishes him on later on. But I do know Eubank's been finished this last year by Chris Smith, Callum Smith's brother. Yeah, he finished him, so we'll see how that plays out. That would be an interesting fight. Once more news comes out, I'll break that one down. But I did hear over the Canelo and Crawford rumors. I want to get into that fight a little bit. Interesting because they're similar to size in terms of height. I just think Canelo's too big. Way too big for Crawford. And most people are like, oh, Crawford has a chance. Crawford to stop him. No shot. If Madrimov was landing these punches on Crawford, imagine what Canelo's going to do. And I think Canelo's a little faster than Madrimov. Canelo sets up his punches better. He's down and his punches better. I do see Crawford giving him issues at first. Maybe even, I don't know if he'll rock him, but I think he'll give him issues in the sense where Canelo gets frustrated. But I think as the rounds go, I think Crawford will start to tire. Their fight at 168. Crawford had to tire. I think Canelo will wear him down. If Canelo wants to finish him, I think he will. But if he wants to keep it to decision, I think he will. But I honestly think the body attack will be like no other body attack that Crawford's ever received. So I do think Canelo will attack the body, overall finish him in the head, probably knock him down, knock him out, whatever. I do see Canelo by a KO in the 10th round. So now we're going to get into the Bivol Better Be 2 fight. So we'll talk about a little bit about the main card. We're going to talk about Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov. And this is a really interesting fight because when you talk about Virgil, someone who hits really hard, really quick, gets people out of there. And Israel Madrimov really made his money and his name off the Crawford fight. Most people didn't know about him, but now they know. This will be interesting because this has potential to be a firefight. I do think Virgil hits harder. I just think Madrimov's a much more slicker boxer and throws more volume. I think Ortiz likes to sit on his punches, throw the body, throw right hands, hooks, where Madrimov has that Russian style where he's bouncing in and out, that Soviet style boxing, and I do see that fight. Who do I see winning? I'll save that prediction for later, but I just wanted to talk about how good of a fight that's going to be. Potential to be a really good fight. Potential for anybody to get knocked out. Virgil's been dropped. You could see Madrimov knocking him out. You could also see Ortiz knocking anybody out. If Virgil could beat Madrimov in a convincing way, I think it lines up a fight with Crawford, or give him the title fight against Fundora, because Fundora owns, I think, 2 or 3 other titles. Or set some fight with him and who else is at 54? Fundora, Sebastian's up there. Tim Tszyu got finished badly, so that's fight. Maybe a fight with Spence, but I don't know if Spence really gonna come out of retirement or Spence is gonna come out. I think Spence announced retirement, right? I think after another eye injury. So we'll see how that goes. And then another fight, which is Shakur and Floyd Schofield. So it's gonna be a good fight. I think it depends on what a Shakur shows up. If Shakur is gonna go in there and just start running or on the back foot a lot, I think it'll be a boring fight. I think Shakur probably coasts to victory if that's the case. If Shakur goes in there and tries to show his skill. I think he'll make it really entertaining. I think he'll really showcase what he's made of. And I think that's what Shakur needs. Shakur needs a fight like that to land a big fight like Tank, to land a big fight like Tofimo, to land a big fight like Ryan Garcia, to land a big fight like who's else? Devin Haney, one of those guys. I think Haney's not scared to fight him. I think Haney will fight anybody. But Shakur really needs to put his foot down and really needs to show anybody that, hey, I'm legit. Because if you're just running, none of these fighters are gonna feel pressure to fight you. Why am I gonna fight that guy? That guy just runs. That guy boring. Haney's out there fighting guys who are going up to him, going out and showing you fights. Fighting Ryan Garcia, fighting Jorge Linares, fighting Lomachenko, fighting Regis Progress, fighting these guys, adding up his resume. But Shakur is not really fighting these guys, and he's in the way he's fighting is just running, not really attacking. So moving on from Shakur, we're gonna go into Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker for the IBF Heavyweight Championship of the World. And this is an interesting fight because Joseph Parker's coming off wins off Xinjiang and Deontay Wilder. Daniel Dubois is coming off wins off of Anthony Joshua, coming off of win off, I forgot how to pronounce his name, but it's Filip Hijovic or something around that name. A big fighter, big heavyweight who a lot of people thought was going to win. And Daniel Dubois basically stopped him, and then another stoppage victory over Chisora. So I think Daniel Dubois is going to come in here with a chip on his shoulder, with so much confidence that and Joseph Parker as well. But when you look at them, Daniel Dubois is a big boy. That guy's huge, right? And I think that ultimately that'll be too much for Joseph. I know Joseph will probably move a little better as he's a lot smaller. He's a cruiserweight who can move. But I do think Daniel Dubois' power and his speed will catch Parker and set him on the ground. And I don't think Parker could recover from that. I do think Daniel Dubois hits too hard, and I think he'll just put him on against the ropes and finish him. And Daniel Dubois does have good cardio, so I don't see Joseph Parker winning that fight. I don't. I think Daniel Dubois is just too big and too good. And I do think Daniel Dubois winning will get him a fight against Usyk again for the number 2, as that's pretty much only who's left for Usyk. And I think if Usyk beats him, that's it. I think he retired. I think he's done. And then the main event is Bivol and Better Beef. So Bivol and Better Beef 2 was interesting because the first fight was in a classic fight, one of the most anticipated fights in history. I personally thought Bivol won. I think Bivol let him off the hook, but I think Bivol won. Now, for this fight's interesting because Better Beef never really hurt or stunned Bivol. He's getting older. Bivol's getting older as well, but Bivol's a lot younger. I personally think Bivol outclasses Better Beef in the second fight. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think Bivol knows that he can outbox him and he can stay on the outside. And Better Beef's only getting older, and I think he's going to be a little slower. And I think Bivol is just going to come in there and boom, 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 get out, boom, 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 get out, and then possibly even hurt him and then get him out of there. But other than that, Better Beef, I mean, the only way I can see him winning is if he learns and pressures more and starts sitting down. Because Better Beef just throws punches at you, and he hits so hard. But if he really sat and boom on that body punch or boom on that right hand to the top, I think he could do a lot of damage. And think about it, he does damage enough just throwing at you. Imagine just sitting boom, boom. It really, I think Better Beef obviously has the power to take Bivol out at any given moment. So I do think Better Beef has a chance, but my guess is I think Bivol does beat him, and I think they'll go for a third fight. And I think if it goes to decision, you could bet on my money that I'm gonna Bivol wins the decision so they can get a third fight in the Saudis, you know. So that's pretty much all the boxing news that I have for you guys, and that's pretty much everything we've covered. We've covered everything. We covered NFL, we covered MLB, we covered college, we covered boxing, we covered UFC. So other than that, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll have another video on Friday out for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, thoughts and prayers to all people out there in the fires. Thoughts and prayers to my homie out there. We love you, big guy. Other than that, guys, thank you so much. Have a blessed one. God bless you guys later, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Thank you so much. Have a good one.